Let's get ready to rumble!
Hello and welcome to Netflix versus Cinema, the podcast that, like the current climate, like the current situation in the world today, will be constantly changing over the next couple of weeks as we figure out what it is that we have left to actually work with. My name is Tosin. I am your host. I am based up in the Midlands near Coventry, and joining me as always on the Isle of Wight are Sharon.
Hello.
And Shaun. Shaun? Okay, now we're doing this over a Zoom call and Shaun has just frozen.
Hello?
Oh no, he's there.
He's there, but I'm pretty sure he's going to have like a massive delay now.
I can see me. I'm seeing me moving.
Okay, you can, you will see
Hello?
you moving. You will see you moving, but you probably won't see us. And you'll probably hear me saying this about 30 seconds after I've said it.
It just suddenly dropped out. It did it yesterday when I was watching the football. I was watching the England game and all of a sudden I thought, oh no! So
All right,
it might
okay,
just
cool.
be the Wi-Fi.
It might just be the Wi-Fi. So, okay, we'll carry on as long as it keeps working. And we'll go there. So I'm just going to do the intros again. And joining me as ever on the Isle of Wight are Sharon.
Hello.
And Shaun. The computer does not like Shaun today. The internet does not like Shaun being part of this thing today. Shaun, can you hear me?
I can now, yes.
Okay, cool. You can hear me. So we're going to try for the third time to do the intros and see what happens.
Okay, let's go. Let's try it.
Okay. Joining me on the Isle of Wight, as usual, Sharon.
Hello.
And Shaun.
Hiya.
Oh, yes! Yes! Okay, as I said in the intro, we're just having to deal with things that are happening, whatever the world throws at us, we're just having to deal with it. And you might not hear this when you listen to the podcast, but we tried that intro 3 times. 3 times, and 10 minutes later, we finally have it. We finally have a hiya from Shaun. So, all right, so as I was mentioning it, okay. It's been a couple of weeks since we've recorded the podcast. That is largely because one of us decided to go off and selfishly become a father. So, yes, I know. One of us decided, I can't imagine who could be that selfish. So the last couple of weeks have been a whole new world, a bit like the wider world at large, where we're finding out new things as they carry on. And in the time since we last recorded, big things have happened in the cinema world, wouldn't you say?
Oh yes.
Big things, huge.
Big things have happened, and it's kind of like, remember how way back before cinemas reopened in the UK, there was something that I refer to as a cinematic game of chicken, where you had the cinemas going, we're going to open, and then the studios going, oh, we're going to wait a little bit and we're going to stay a little bit longer before we actually open, and then cinemas go, okay, then we're going to push it back, and it was like, oh, who was going to go first? Then Tenet decided to put its flag on the ground, everybody opened, and then it seems to have happened all over again. This time it was James Bond. No Time to Die, Daniel Craig's final outing as James Bond, was pushed back, and once that happened, it caused mass chaos. So since the last
Bond has thrown the cinema under the bus.
I don't think it's just Bond. No,
it's not just Bond.
Yeah, but
they were the final. They were the kick that sent them reeling over the edge. I think.
They were like, if we don't have a Bond movie, I think a lot of cinema chains had been counting on that. I know View, Cineworld, Odeon have spoken about that. So since that, James Bond pushed himself. James Bond got pushed back, and then since then we've had the cinemas have, like, the different chains have responded in different ways. Cineworld has shut down indefinitely, and they said like they're going to shut down until essentially these studios get their act together and actually start releasing films. Which is bad news for the two of you, because it means that the big cinema multiplex on the Isle of Wight is not open, which is the Cineworld.
There's a small independent cinema, but how long that they all cope, or we don't know. But yeah, Cineworld was our main source of our cinema goingness. And
so when did the cinema on the Isle of Wight actually shut down?
The Thursday after the announcement. So they said I think they announced it on the Monday or the Tuesday when Bond announced that they were moving back. More or less, almost straight away, Cineworld said, "You know what? You've won for this year. We're not going to open again until we know when we've got a film." And so the cinema on the Isle of Wight said, "Okay, Thursday night is going to be the last film that's scheduled for Thursday night, and we're going to shut the doors after Thursday night."
I've got a horrible feeling I can't see it reopening. Not over here. I really can't see it reopening, even in the summer, even next year, whatever. I think it's done. I've got a really, really bad feeling, but I think it's probably done. I mean, there was something on the news today, and they were talking like Cineworld, they're just going to ditch all the staff. So, and they were in financial trouble even before all this. Yeah. So, I just think it's gone.
Yeah, it's sheesh. I'm actually, Shaun, you just saying that actually made me kind of a bit emotional. As I've actually sort of sat down here. It might have to be the whole becoming a new dad, because in case you didn't figure it out, it was me. I became a new dad. So it's like maybe
it wasn't me.
Yeah, maybe it's the whole becoming a dad thing. But what you just said there, actually, I could feel tears welling up in the back of my eyes when you were saying about you think it might be gone, because I think I agree with you, man.
Yeah, it's purpose built as a cinema, so there is a slight hope that another chain might take it over, because it's a site with 11 screens, so it's all there, built for that purpose. But it is a big commitment, isn't it, for any, and especially when Disney this week, I've read about them saying that they're going to be putting all of their investment for the next however long into films for their streaming sites. They're going to channel everything towards their streaming sites and have a less emphasis on cinema releases.
Well, it makes sense, because I have my thoughts on this. I have my thoughts on. Okay, I'm just going to make a note. Talk about studios being greedy. Studios being greedy. Well, so and I think what that means is that when they say they're going to focus more on streaming stuff, they're going to spend less money on the films. So they're not going to be making a $200 million films anymore. They might make a $50 million film, because they can push those out, and they can be like, throwaway popcorn, which they don't have to have that many people watch it on the streaming site to make the money back. They don't.
Yeah, to get that back. Not if they've got subscribers. That money is just going to roll in whatever they do.
Yeah. So Shaun, I'm sorry to say this. We've spoken about this on this. If this is the first time you're speaking on the podcast, sorry, it will be all over the place, because the world is all over the place right now. But we really talk. Yeah. We usually talk about Netflix things and cinema things, and we compare them to each other, as the title might suggest. And Shaun, you always have this whole thing about Netflix and how Netflix doesn't care about the quality of the film, because so it seems like a lot of the people, so Disney have the Disney Plus platform, and they seem to be following the Netflix model, which is we'll just put it in there, we'll spend less money, but we'll get better return for it. So I'm sorry, Shaun. One
thing I was surprised at is Disney make more money on their theme parks.
Yeah.
They do. They like, that's like huge amount. That's sort of, their theme parks are like massive money spinner.
Yeah, but if you think about a Disney theme park, the default is that people go to a Disney theme park because that's where Mickey Mouse lives, and they want to meet Mickey Mouse. Then as things go on, you end up with Frozen, and they will go to Disney theme park because that's where Elsa lives and all that. So essentially, the films are the first thing that create the interest for people to actually go to a Disney theme park. So, number one, at the moment with the theme park, they're not going to be making as much money. And
no, it's like film and cinema, and with all the promotional stuff, it's like a symbiotic relationship, isn't it?
Yeah.
You normally we tend to think of one as being like the parasite and one as being like the purer form, but they do rely upon each other. That the cinemas need the films to keep coming.
Yes.
And then these big corporations need an audience.
Yes.
And the audience still generate a buzz at a cinema that these other platforms just won't generate.
They generate them in a different way. I mean, it's kind of like, I know with the interviews that we've been doing with film buffs, there was one with one of my friends, Wale, and he was saying that he thinks that the format of a film, the 2 hours sit down, have your attention for 2 hours, is built for the cinema and just doesn't work at home. He says that it doesn't work at home because at home you can get up, you can go, you can pause it, all that. It's like home is meant for something more episodic. So home is meant for a mini series. Right? So, and you find, like, when I look at you look at Netflix and look at the buzz that they've gotten from things like The Social Dilemma, from The Tiger King. So the things that they've gotten a buzz from tend to be more sort of documentaries as opposed to feature films. You don't really get a buzz on Netflix from a feature film, but you do from a TV series, you do from a documentary. And so I think it will change. It will change. Without the cinema, what we are going to be hearing about, what we're going to be yelling about is going to change. But talking about and Shaun, please do jump in at one point at any second if I say anything that's mildly intelligent and makes you think, oh yeah, I've got something to say about that. But the thing that gets me is, this, as I said, it became this sort of symbiotic chicken egg thing where you have cinemas, and cinemas need films, and I think the head of View actually said this week, he said like, cinema will survive. We just need movies, is the way he put it. He just said, we just need movies. We can't keep open. We can't keep paying these things because they're the movies that people want to see, and movies that people have been waiting the entirety of 2020 to see, that the studios are refusing to release. And this is the way he put it across, that the studios are actually refusing to release them, which I personally agree with, because it seems like the studios have just sat down there and they are refusing to accept that because of a pandemic, they might make less money. They are refusing to accept that. It's like everybody, or almost everybody, not Zoom, for instance. Zoom got more money from me this week because, we don't have to go off after 40 minutes, by the way, guys, because this week I paid for a Zoom account, which means that we can be on here for 24 hours complaining and they will not kick us off. They will not.
Well, I shall relax and then just. I should have bought snacks.
I suppose the Zoom's handy with the little one because you've probably got loads of relatives and all that now that you can talk to.
Yes. Zoom. This is to keep it busy. We're talking about industries that have done well because of the pandemic. For instance, Zoom. We were going to do a naming ceremony. So I just had a child, and in the Yoruba culture where I come from, on the 8th day of life. So essentially a week after the baby is born, you do the naming ceremony where you reveal to everybody what name you've given your child. And other people who are there, so like, family members, it's supposed to be for close family, they come in and everybody who shows up gets to give the child a name or like a blessing or a wish for their life. And we had the rule of 6, which meant that, my wife, she is one of 5 girls. So her immediate family, her nuclear family, immediately contravenes the rule of 6, so they couldn't come. I'm one of 4, so my immediate family, if we had all of them without Claudia there, we might be 6. So we went, okay, how are we going to do? So I figured out a sort of staging platform where we did it, and it worked out quite well using Zoom, because I spent ages trying to figure out how to make this thing work, and using all of my video knowledge and putting it all together and all that kind of stuff. But that meant that I knew with this number of people on, we can't just keep kicking people off 40 minutes and then coming them back on like we do on the podcast. Usually on the podcast, we record for 40 minutes, we all get kicked off, then we come back for another 40 minutes and finish it off because I'm a cheapskate. But with all the family, I knew we couldn't. So with something like that, I went, okay, I'm going to pay for Zoom. And Zoom got my £14 off me, which meant that, they were like, we knew if you kept hanging around, you will eventually pay us £14. So
get there in the end.
Yeah, so they are doing well, but there's a lot of industries that have realized that, look, we are going to have to take a hit, and we're going to keep making money, but we're just not going to make as much money as we did. And the studios, this is the bit, your Disneys, your Warner Brothers, now let's say Fox is gone. Who else is there? I can't remember any. Maybe there's not that many studios. But they all seem to think that that they shouldn't make less money than they would have done otherwise because there's a pandemic on. So they're looking at Tenet. And Tenet, people are saying, well, it didn't make £1 billion, which is what it was supposed to make if times are normal. I'm like, times are not normal. Tenet still made about, 400 million worldwide, and that was without being released in New York and LA, which are big, massive film markets, which to me shows that there is still an appetite. People are still going to watch it. The fact that this film has made something like 400 million in a pandemic, for me, is a big success story. So I personally think keep things inching along. you will make less money, but you will still make money. And it means that cinemas can survive, cinemas will be there, and then when a vaccine gets released or something comes up and then something can come back to the point where, to some sort of model where the way you used to make money before, you would make even more, because then people will be, that you can still do that. But they seem to think, no, we cannot handle making 50% of what we were making before. We're just not going to release the films.
Yeah. And you think, surely with these films, when they are released, they have a longer run at the cinemas where they're not fighting for screen space as any others, like with Tenet. It was on at our cinema.
Tenet
it has
is still
like 4
on.
or 5. It's still on. So it's like you've got more space. Your film will run for longer. You don't have to see if you can get that record-breaking opening weekend. Your run is going to be a month, 2 months longer than it was before. So you'll get your money, but it will just take a bit longer.
Yeah.
But I think I just feel it's a bit short-sighted. They want to release these films, and they're expecting all the cinemas to be ready and waiting when they decide to release their film. If they're not releasing their films now, you're not going to have anywhere to release your films into. Then you're not going to make your money back, because you immediately have limited how many places can show.
They make no money at all. They make no money
at
all.
They won't make their money because they've got nowhere to show it.
You see, okay. I mean, Shaun, should you want to say something? There's something I'm going to circle back to.
I was just saying, it's I don't know if you call it catch-22 or it's a silly thing, but Sharon's exactly right. Is that they won't make any money because there'll be so many cinemas that go by the way in different cities and that they lose a lot of the money by not releasing them. I think it's terrible. So I'd probably sound pretty sad and angry, don't I? And quite bitter, I think, because I don't know what I'm going to do with that cinema.
No, but Shaun, the thing is, when you say sad and angry, I'm with you, because it's the bit that gets me, and the thing that I keep coming back to, is that they are not willing to accept that they would make less money. They are not willing to accept that this is the world we live in now. You're going to have to make less money than you originally hoped to make. Everybody's having to do that, but they think, no, it shouldn't apply to them. And so they're waiting and waiting and waiting until the times come round when they can make as much money as they originally hoped to make from these films. And that bit, I have to admit, Shaun, I'm with you, that annoys me. That annoys me that people are that... Well, in my mind, it seems greedy. I don't know what the bottom line is. I don't know what the accounting is like. I don't know whether they actually need the money, they need those films to make that much money to remain open. I don't know. But it seems, when you look at someone like Disney, for instance, who I don't know how bad an economic downturn will have to be for Disney to go under. I don't know how bad they have to be, and I do not want to think about how bad that economic downturn will have to be for Disney to say we are bankrupt. I think they can take major successive hits. And the fact that they are not willing to even try and put something out there really, really gets up my nose. But Shaun, you were just talking. I remember there was a while back on on this show, we were talking about whether cinemas were going to go out of business because of the pandemic, and I said no, it's not going to happen. Even if Cineworld goes under, Odeon goes under, somebody else will come out and fill them up. I think Disney could come out and say, we're going to set up our own cinema chain, and you can only watch our films in our cinema. Essentially, Disney are going to do a Disney Plus for cinema-wise. And the fact that I think that they should be able to still release their films in cinema and still make money, make less. But the fact that they're holding back and they're refusing to do that makes me think that this is going to be some sort of massive power grab.
Yeah.
A bit like Shaun, you're a football fan. You were talking about watching a lot of football this week. And in the news this week has been all about the project Big Picture.
Oh yeah, with the big clubs. Yeah.
Yes, with the big, where you have Liverpool and Man United who have seen this opportunity, because everybody's talking about how the clubs at the bottom of the pyramid are possibly going to go out of business, and they need help from the big clubs. And so Liverpool and Man United came up with a document called Project Big Picture that said, oh yeah, sure, no problem. We are happy to give you a whole bunch of money, but here are our demands, and this is what and it was essentially saying wanted to restructure English football in a way that benefited, that might save everything down the line, but benefited the two biggest clubs at the top. And I feel like that might be what studios are doing now. Maybe they're using this whole thing as situation that they probably have some contingency plan that when AMC go out of business, when Cineworld go out of business, when Odeon go out of business, they can step in, have some cut price deal, buy themselves a cinema chain, and then they can become the distributor of their own film. And that means that they don't have to pay the cinema any money whatsoever. That
does sound like. I mean, Disney has nearly got hold of everything. Disney will just own the entertainment industry, I expect, when it comes to movies.
Exactly. And
and it's something they used to call it carpetbagging, didn't they? When people would swoop in and try to get stuff at a bargain price when they're at their lowest. So I think Disney are turning into carpetbaggers. I think.
Yeah, I think they are really. They've lost. They've become so corporate that they've lost their. I don't know.
They lost that joy. You used to feel joyful about Disney because it was it was like Mickey Mouse going, ah! And now I just think of it as like a bit of a monster. It's become a bit too big.
To be honest with you, I think that they may have always been carpetbaggers. I think Walt Disney himself, sure enough, he was a creative, but he also had a ruthless capitalist side.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that the thing with Disney is they're a company who's, and I know that there's other film studios who are doing exactly the same thing, but we're just beating on Disney because they're like the biggest one. They're the biggest one who had the top 10 grossing films of last year, like 8 of them came from Disney indirectly because they own Marvel, because they own Star Wars, because they own Pixar. So it's
I expect they've got Harry Potter in their sights, don't you?
No, that's Warner Brothers.
Oh, right. But yeah. I reckon they'll go for it.
Well,
they would.
I think if they could, they would. But I don't think Warner Brothers are in any position where they need to do that. And I think that if they did,
are they pretty strong? Then Warner Brothers, are they sort of in quite a strong place?
Warner Brothers are in a pretty strong place, and Warner Brothers are in a pretty strong. And also, there's a whole bunch of reasons why it wouldn't work because Disney owned Marvel, Warner Brothers pretty much own DC. So the only people who make DC movies is Warner Brothers. So so Harry Potter is pretty much Warner Brothers are using Harry Potter like their Mickey Mouse. So they own the Wizarding World of Potter, which is in Watford over here and all around the world. That is their theme park, and that's where they're using it. So Universal, I forgot about Universal, but so what was my point? Yeah, so Disney. Oh yeah, well Disney Disney is this whole thing where when it comes to the capitalist thing of we must own everything, I really do not like that. I really don't like Disney. I do not like their business practices. I think, oh my God, you're everything that's wrong with the world. But they keep making things that I love. So the output, the Disney output is like, I'm like, oh my God, I love this. So when you talk about that, it's like a magic trick. You talk about that sort of like family feel, that friendly, cuddly thing. I will watch a Disney thing and I'll get that friendly, cuddly feeling. And then I'll read the newspaper and hear about what they're doing business practice-wise. And I'll be like, oh my God. And even though I know it's the same business and the horrible sort of like blood money that Disney is making by in my head at the moment, possibly shutting down cinema chains is being used to make, Wreck-It Ralph. or things I love like Tangled, which is better than Frozen, but it's a hard one that they do that. But I do feel this is beginning to feel like a bit of a power grab to me because I don't, as you said, Sharon, they are essentially cutting off their best way of making money by refusing to release these films. They're cutting off their best way of making money, and I am pretty sure that has not passed them by. I think that they have another plan, which is like, don't worry, we're going to make even more money.
We're going to release these films in our own cinemas, and then we're going to charge our rivals mega bucks if they want to have one of their films in our cinemas.
I think, unfortunately, I feel like that's where things might be going. The
only bright side I can possibly see is I hope one day that we might see a resurgence of the independent, that people may think we haven't, on the island, we've only got an independent left. So it might be that the chance for that sort of micro cinema to say, you know what, when they, give it a 6 months, that we could bring back, because I know the library at
You and
Freshwater
me,
have
you
a
and me
film
could
club.
take Cineworld over, Sharon.
We could.
If we could Tozen
that
to
would
be
be
one
our
of our
next
backers.
project.
We could form it into a little corporation.
Sponsored by
let's see.
Netflix versus cinema.
Oh, I love it. We could buy the Netflix versus cinema. I'll tell you
I mean,
what.
like Sharon said, it is a purpose-built cinema, so you've got screens there. And I mean, even if you could only sort of take over a couple, you know.
Oh my! You guys have got me thinking now. You got me thinking because a friend of mine, Maiwani, he heard that we did the podcast, so he has been sending me he's been sending me every now and then. He's been sending me stuff about cinema and all that and on all that jazz. But he sent me something recently, which was what they're doing is a thing on Twitter which he called the absolute wildest deal I've ever seen in a while. You can buy, so you know AMC Theaters, which is a big cinema chain in America.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, you can rent the entire theater for you and up to 20 guests for $99.
Wow!
Yes.
Does that include the film, or do you have to pay extra for the film?
It says it says host a private showing, host a private movie showing at AMC. For starting at $99 for friends, family movie events, celebrations, birthday parties, all that kind of stuff, safe and clean. I guess you would choose the film and give it to them somehow, but you could essentially rent a cinema for $99 in the States, and
that'd be worth it. Cool.
So
I'll do that. Films I want to see.
No, when you said that, I'm thinking like we could Netflix for cinema movie nights.
Yeah.
Netflix for cinema movie nights. We could get things on. So I mean, but Sharon, I agree. If the independents could work, and if we could get an act together and figure out a way of hosting maybe like a once a month thing or once a month movie club or something. I mean, it could work. It could work. And this leads me to the other thing, because we spoke about Cineworld, but we haven't spoken about Odeon and what Odeon are doing.
They're weekends only, aren't they?
They are weekends only. So yeah, Odeons have gone weekends only, and I love that idea. I've got to be honest with you. I love that idea. When they mentioned it, I was like, that's a genius idea. I love it. If it wasn't for the fact that I have other things I need to be worrying about right now that should keep me out of a cinema, I would be there. So it's because it's, well, a part of that reason is because there's an Odeon, like if I cycled, it would take me 25 minutes to get there from my house. And the Odeon in Nuneaton is one that has just been refurbished to be an Odeon Luxe. So I was like, yeah, this is going to be one of the ones they're going to keep open. And sure enough, you go to the Odeon app and it says, oh, what films are showing today? Nothing. Then you get to Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And Friday, Saturday, Sunday, they have films. And they even started sending me emails saying, what film do you think we should show? So they sent me an email saying, what film do you think we should show? We're going to ask people in the local area. And they were asking about my specific cinema close to me. What film do you think we should show? And it was from the Rocky franchise, from Rockies 1 to 5. Which one do you want to watch? You chose it. And the one that everybody voted for, the most people voted for, they were going to put on that you could come to the cinema and watch it. And if you didn't have an Odeon card, you could come to the cinema and watch it for £5. And I'm like,
even better.
And things like that. Like it's kind of like it's a bit like a big multinational trying to be independent. And that sort of interaction is, I'm thinking, oh, this might actually be quite good.
This might work.
And the thing about going weekends only that I love is that it makes it an event. It makes it an event where you only have 3 days a week in which you can go watch a film at the cinema. You have to pick your day, pick your film, and build your calendar around it. Which for me, I think it might be a little bit artificial, but I feel it brings that special feeling back to cinema, as opposed to I can just watch it whenever I want. I'm just going to show up and see what's next.
I'm having a film reference moment. I'm having that whole Field of Dreams. If you build it, they will come.
Well, yeah. but I do prefer the Odeon. I mean, most things I do not prefer Odeon to Cineworld. I don't like the Odeon. I prefer the Cineworld Unlimited system to the Odeon Limitless version.
Yeah.
But this is one bit where I did look at it. I do feel like Odeon have done something that I straight up prefer to what Cineworld have done. I know it might be different.
Yes, it would have been a better option, I think, for us, definitely, because it would have been, let's like, give us something.
Yeah.
But they have, I mean, as unlimited customers, they have immediately, they suspended all our direct debits. So they did say, right, we're not going to charge you if you, from the beginning of the month of October, if you've been charged already, we're going to give you your money back for the month of October. We're going to just like write off that subscription month. So they did that almost like immediately, but it's like give us something and we'll work with you. We want Cineworld to survive because we want cinema in the regions, and to survive. So you give us something and we'll work with you. But
so,
they haven't.
Yeah, but I mean, it might just be the different financial situations. Maybe Odeon were in a better situation than Cineworld is.
I think so. Yeah, I think so. I think there's, from the stuff I was reading about Cineworld and listening on the radio, they were struggling slightly. They were quite badly in debt before the pandemic, anyway. So
they were probably overextended slightly, because I know they did close some of their branches a couple of years ago when they were overextending, and they did sort of retrench a little bit and close. Because I know when my friend Kathy, who used to be part of our film quiz,
yeah, I remember,
when she first moved to Wrexham, they had a Cineworld, and then that closed, and then they had no cinema in Wrexham apart from the closest cinema she had was in Chester.
Yeah,
and then A View has opened now in Wrexham. So last year she started to go to cinema again, because finally there was one within easy reach of her home.
Oh, that's nice.
But yeah, they did start off having a Cineworld, but they did, and then I looked on their list of sites, and they did close quite a few branches about 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah, because I think even last year Cineworld bought up another chain that was struggling, and I think they were planning on a big year this year to sort of. So it's
well, the one when I went to Bournemouth, because that Bournemouth used to be an Empire Cinema. Like when I went over to see some films there, that used to be an Empire Cinema, but it became a Cineworld Cinema.
Yeah.
Anyway, have you have you seen anything that's nice, really, so we can get
I know. Okay, sure. I would just say one more thing on Odeon, because to be honest with you, this episode, I was like, I'm not even sure I want to review anything. I think I just want to complain.
Okay.
I think I just want to punch something in the face.
Vent.
I just want to vent. But okay, so the opportunity that I think that we have here, which is what I think Odeon is doing. So Odeon, when you look at the films that they're showing this weekend, they have they're going to be showing a preview of a film called Ammonite, which I believe is Saoirse Ronan and Kate Winslet, which is
about the life of Mary Anning.
All right, okay, did not know. Fossil Hunter.
Yeah, Fossil Hunter, but I think they've made up most of it. But it's still inspired by Mary Anning. Yeah.
So, okay, they're showing, there's a BFI showing of that. There's a whole bunch of stuff, like when you look at it, they're bringing some films back, like Cinderella, Disney, Cats and Dogs, Dennis and Nasha. I did not realize that there was like a new Dennis the Menace film out. And it looks like it's the British Dennis the Menace as well, as opposed to the American one. Guardians of the Galaxy is coming back. Michael Ball is having some live, I think it's Michael Ball and Alfie Bow are coming back for something. Saint Maud, which I think you've seen, Sharon. Tenet is still out there. Trolls World Tour 2x2. And the thing that excites me probably the most, the kind of thing that they're doing, is they are bringing back, I'm not sure whether, I think that they're bringing back Akira, the manga, the sort of like the classic manga, which everybody always sort of like, when you talk about manga, people always talk, or anime rather, people always talk, oh my god, Akira. And they're going to be showing that on the big screen on Sunday. And I'm like, yeah, this sounds like a good idea. This sounds like
there's a real mix there.
This is how you go about doing something. This is how you go about building it up. So I think with that, we might have to bring the rant version or the rant section of this to a close.
Yes.
Might actually just put out the rant on its own as an episode. It's like, Star, why do you want to kill our cinemas, Disney? Because I'm going to keep blaming you. As much as I love your stuff, I will keep blaming you. and
this could be our discussion point for our chat room. Say, discuss. We've set the ball rolling. Now you take it from here.
Yeah, we could do that. I mean, I know we did start off at that. Yes, sorry, Sean.
So you're gonna have to go. You're gonna have to beast mode and go 3 times a week, and then you can review the films at the cinema, and me and Sharon will do our streaming stuff.
We sat home eating crisps loudly.
Oh my! I'll have to go to the cinema. Oh man, this is not going to be good. I have a baby. I'm supposed to be changing. I could change nappies at the cinema. I guess I could be there on
you
the
may be
floor,
the only
middle
person
aisle.
to screens. Yeah, it should be fine.
We do that. I have to go and see 3 films a weekend. See one Friday, see one Saturday, see one Sunday. I'll see if Claudia, my wife, will let me get away with that. I'm not sure.
I think not.
I'm not sure. But so yeah, I think over the next couple of weeks is going to be a bit. We're just going to have to see what we have week to week. We're going to be a show in search of a format. I think over the next couple of we'll see what we can catch when we can catch it. But let's try and see. We actually managed to get before the cinema closed. You guys managed to catch some stuff. So I'm going to let you guys carry on because you just tell me what it is that you got to see at the cinema before it shut.
Okay. Well, I saw. I'll start off then, if you like. I saw this. I mean, I had no idea what it was about. It was called Schemers, and it sounded to me like some sort of I don't know, like a silly teen. And I had no images. I didn't know what it was about. And this, I went there, and do you know something? It was a total, absolutely fantastic film. I absolutely loved it. The story is basically it's a player. He gets injured. He's a football player. He plays for he's a football player, and he comes up with something to. And he decides he's going to put on bands. It takes place in Dundee, up in Scotland.
Oh yeah.
And he meets this girl, the nurse that sort of nursed him because of his injury and all that. And anyway, he has to get the only person who owns all these venues is like the local mobster. Hey, Charlie, end up, that sort of real. Yeah. And they say, yeah, well, it costs you this. And he puts on all these bands, and it's great. It takes place in like the late 70s, early 80s. So obviously my era. Yeah. And there's a bit when he's talking to this girl, and he says, the girl's talking to him, and she says, so undertones or buzzcocks? And I shouted out in the cinema, buzzcocks! Right, and I sort of punched the air. And then he turned around and he went, buzzcocks. And I was like, yeah, I told you. I went with John. I went with our friend John. And he's like, oh, did I tell you I went to see Bill and Ted as well? Yeah, you said you haven't you haven't reviewed that. I told you about that, didn't I? I spoke about that last time, didn't I? No, you didn't. No. You didn't. So finish Schemers. You do Schemers. Okay. We'll go to Sharon. So much to say. Okay. Anyway, finish Schemers. Then we'll go back to Sharon. Okay. He puts on these bands. He gets some big bands like the Rosillos and all those, and I'm like, wow, it's great. But obviously he decides he's going to put on this massive. It's quite funny. He's on the phone like that, and he goes, "What bands do you want then?" He says, "Oh, we've got a great up and coming band called U2." He goes, "Nah, I don't like the sound of them. They don't sound like they're going." And then they decide, who is it they're putting on? I can't remember now. But anyway, they rent this big venue, and then he tries to make some money by gambling it away, and all goes a bit pear shaped, and it's just I really totally enjoyed this movie, and I'm going to give this one a total 4-star. Oh, right, nice. 4-star. It's funny when you said. I must talk about Bill and Ted. Bill and Ted. Wait, when you said schemers, when you said football player, when you said at the beginning, my mind immediately went to American football because that's what we see on TV or we see in films all the time. When you said Dublin, I was like, what? They don't play American football in... Oh!
It's our football.
It's proper football. Yeah. No, but that's good. And I like the idea that smaller films like this, which I have never heard of, are actually getting an airing. Okay, so... Super pleasure. As I say, it made me punch the air. Yeah. I really enjoyed it. Enjoyed it. Good. It sounds a little bit like Sing Street or something like that. This sort of... films that it sounds nothing like Full Monty, but there's something that has the sort of spirit of a Full Monty, of a plucky band of underdogs who get together and they achieve something that in the grand scheme of things is not that big a deal, but to them it's climbing Everest. So it's a little bit like that. Okay, so schemers, go 4 stars. 4 stars for schemers. So Sharon, what about you? What did you manage to catch before cinemas left the
so like
before
Shaun,
Cineworld left the Isle of Wight?
I'll start off with a film that we haven't reviewed before. Then I've just got a little word to say about one that has been previously reviewed. So I'll do that after Shawnee has done his Bill and Ted. But yeah, the new film that I saw was Saint Maud.
Yes.
That I went into this a bit cold, as in I hadn't seen the trailer for it. I'd only seen a poster and a thumbnail, so I had no idea what it was about. So it was a bit of a shock in places, because I was thinking, this is a lot darker than I thought this was going to be. And it's only as the film progressed that I realised that it is actually a sort of psychological horror film.
Yeah.
And that goes into some very dark places. So yeah, not quite the film I thought it was going to be, based on the poster and on what little I knew about it. So anyway, Saint Maud. Maud is a nurse who does private nursing care for the terminally ill, so she does palliative care. And you see her in the seaside town. It says Coney Island. When she's walking down through the town. So she's set in England, of a certain seaside town. And there's a famous dancer who is living her final days in this sort of house isolated in the hills above the town. And she goes there to be her live-in carer.
Yeah.
And she's got a faith which is almost like uniquely Catholic. That's not sort of being judgmental about it, but it's one of those where it's very religious in that it's all about the ritual and it's about symbolism, and there's many layers to it. It's not just about a simple faith. It comes with a lot of attached to it.
Yeah.
And so the dancer, she sees that Maud is this religious, and she sort of almost like plays with it. And by sort of playing with her, she sort of starts calling her saviour. And then for Maud, this doesn't just become about making her last days bearable. It becomes about saving her soul. Saying that if she dies, unsaved, then she's going to go to hell. And that uniquely Catholic hell, that's like, you think of it in the iconography, it's all burning and demons.
It's all Dante. Dante
it's
and
Dante.
purgatory.
And this is all exacerbated by the fact that she's given a gift of a book of William Blake's paintings.
Oh, yeah.
And inside it's inscribed to Maud, my saviour from Amanda. And she becomes obsessed with this imagery in these paintings, imagery of these angels and imagery of demons and hell. And it sort of basically, you then see Maud's spiralling descent into what we would say was madness. We would say it was a spiralling descent, and she would say, I just hear myself come back at me. But for Maud, it's her ascent. She's going up. By the more she tries to persuade her client, that she needs to go to heaven and be saved, she sees that she's ascending, and we see her as descending, because we think you're falling apart, love.
Okay, so everything that you said about this film, it's sort of like is backing up what I thought it would be, because it has Morfydd Clack in it, who is kind of like one of those. I think she is Welsh, but she's one of the she's one of the sort of up and coming young actresses now. She's done quite a bit of stuff in the last. She was in David Copperfield, but the fact that
you see her appearing in more things, don't you?
Yeah. But it's the fact that it had more of an indie thing to it and all that, and everything you're saying. So it's sort of backing up that whole of what I thought this film was going to be. I mean, I didn't know exactly what it was going to be, but I thought it was going to be psychological. It's going to be weird. It's going to be iffy.
Yeah.
And if it works, it's going to be a little bit special. If it doesn't, it's going to be It's going to be a pretentious mess. So the question, Sharon, as the only one who's seen it, is: did it work?
I would say yes, because it takes you to some dark places, and it's unrelenting. I mean, there's no. Yes, it's unrelentingly dark, and the music is intense, and it's in your face. You suddenly get this like a foghorn, almost like this of these sort of bass notes sort of resonating through the cinema, and they sort of resonate through you, and you're left feeling slightly, jaded by it. So I would say, if their intention was to make you feel disorientated and disarmed and uncomfortable, then it certainly works. Because I came out of there going, what the heck have I just been? I just sat through. And the music was just like going through my head a little bit. So for that sort of intense, it worked in that regard. I found it quite dark, intense and unnerving in places.
All right.
Because I didn't have any preconceived ideas, so I was just sat there and let it wash over me. I was quite relieved, actually. I was going to invite one of my friends to come and see it with me, because I thought, she might like a film about, a religious person. And then afterwards I thought, no, I'm quite glad I didn't invite her to come along. This is not about a spiritual journey. This was about
it's a spiritual journey in reverse. It's a spiritual journey.
Something quite different. But you understand a little bit about Maud, and you understand her background, so it does tell a story. And you don't always see what's going to come. There's a few moments where I was going, I don't know where this is going. I don't understand what's happening, but I think that was intentional. So yes, it certainly worked. So if for an uncomfortable watch, but it was certainly, cracking filmmaking.
All right. So how many stars would you give it?
So I think I feel like I ought to give it a 4, because it does deliver. It's sort of shocking, and it's sort of visceral, and it's, alarming in places. It wasn't entirely to my taste, so I can't say I actually enjoyed it, but it certainly was impactful cinema. So I would give it a definite 4, because it is, if you like your cinema intense and impactful, it delivered on that regard. But I certainly didn't. I don't think I enjoyed it, but sometimes I think you just have to recognise something for what it is.
And
it certainly does stay with you after.
Yeah, I know. I've seen some films like that, and one of the things I love about this podcast is I love the varying styles of people. You have Sharon, who comes in with almost forensic sort of like examination of the film she's just watched. And you have Shaun, who's like, oh yeah, Buzzcocks. And Shaun, who might not be with us. Shaun, are you actually still on the call?
Yeah, I'm about. I was listening. I wonder what Sharon would think of that, because when I saw the trailer for St. Maud, I thought it looked interesting. Especially with when she puts those shoes on. It was quite. It did look interesting. I would have liked to have seen it, but it was a special showing, wasn't it? So, and I couldn't actually do that evening.
Yeah.
It was just a one-off, which is a shame, because I did like the look of it, to be honest with you. I did think it looked like it could be quite a good movie. One of the better ones in that sort of vein, that sort of mould. Was it a woman director? Do you know offhand? Was it?
I feel like it is. Cool. I feel like it is. I don't know why, but everything about this film made me think female director. And
because what's really interesting is on a Thursday,
Rose Glass. Directed by Rose Glass.
Well, on a Thursday, they have a thing on Radio 4 called The Film Programme, and I think it'll be on at 11 tonight. And they were talking about the women directors, and the best way they can really get recognised is to make a sort of horror film. I'm trying to think what the one they spoke to, the director, I think it was called Absolution or something. But there's another film, and she said that they're really, really cheap to make. Yeah. And you can, she said, and it was saying
impact.
That she said I could do rom-coms, but rom-coms are like there's no real substance to rom-coms. They want a penny. But if you make a really, really decent thriller, come horror, you get recognised.
Yeah, but this is the thing that they've been saying that for a while. They've said that any filmmaker who is from an underrepresented people group, horror is the way in. So you look at someone like Jordan Peele, who
Get Out.
Yeah, he made Get Out, and he would tell you, he's a horror fan, but he would tell you exactly what you've just said. Horror is the way in to be taken seriously, because horror is cheap. They let you take more risks, and they let you do things that could actually break out. You look at someone like Jennifer Kent, who did The Babadook, which I know you don't like, Shaun, but then her next film was The Nightingale, which I know you do like.
Yeah.
So you do have this whole thing where they say horror is a point where because you can use it as an allegory for a whole bunch of things, and you can actually make an intelligent film when people aren't watching, and where people do not realize what you're doing, and the money men don't realize that's what you're doing. So it is something I've heard about horror. They're like, go for horror, because there's a lady called Nia Da Costa who direct. It was another film that was supposed to be released this year, which was the reimagining, of Candyman. And as a black woman, she has 2 counts against her already in the Hollywood world. But the next thing she's going to be doing Captain Marvel 2 for Marvel. So,
oh wow,
yeah. So
it's a gateway.
It's a gateway. It's an absolute gateway. It's an absolute gateway. Okay, and so now we get onto the films that one of us has already seen, but one of us actually went back and watched what you saw. And now, Sean, you're itching to talk about Bill and Ted Face the Music.
I am so right.
Party on, dude.
Never really. Yeah, I've never really been invested in Bill and Ted. In fact, I couldn't really tell you from the other 2 movies much about it. I couldn't really say whether it was I remember the bits, and I've seen the bits on TV and all that. And I watched this, and I so enjoyed this movie. I was absolutely belly laughing. I was in hysterics.
Really?
I mean, there was a couple of other people in the cinema. Yeah, when they. Oh, mate, the prison.
Oh yeah, the prison. The prison scene is good.
Just, and just all the different when they meet themselves, and I was just like, and I was really, really belly laughing to see that with me as well. And I said, John, I really, really enjoyed that. He said, well, you need to go and see the others. Then you need to revisit the others, because I was never heavily invested in it, and I really, really, totally enjoyed it so much. Yeah.
Okay, so let me get this right. So you went to see this with our friend John, who is referred to we call him Happy John, and he's become like a semi-regular thing. Like we should have a section on the podcast, Happy John's Corner. But
we should be.
So
he was when I spoke to Happy John, and he's like, oh wow, I don't think it was the strongest of the others, and I'm like, no, oh wow. So, but that could mean anything.
yeah. Because I was wondering because he's a fan of the other 2 Bill and Ted films. I was wondering what he thought of this as a fan. What was the feeling you got from him as a fan of the first 2? What was the feeling you got from him about this one?
Well, he did say to me, he thinks that's the weakest film of the other. Was there 2 or 3 others?
There's 2.
There's
2
2
or 3 others.
There's 2 others.
2 others. He said, he thought, in his opinion, it was the worst of the bunch. Worst of the bunch. Whereas me, not being invested in the other 2, I'd be hilarious. I seriously surprised.
The others in it. You can see the nods towards the others in it. Definitely.
It was. The only reason was, Near didn't go. It was just a case of, it's getting near he's going to shut down. It's going to be the end. I better go and see something. And we just happened to be having a coffee. And I don't want to see Bill and Ted, but it might be the last time. So what the hell? And so that would have been the last film I actually saw, I guess. So that would have been on there.
Yeah. Well, in that case, I'm really, really happy that you enjoyed it that much, because I know that.
I went out.
The last no cinema period we had. You were.
Oh yes, Vin Diesel and Bloodshot. Well, at one point, we thought the last film that you were going to see in a cinema on the Isle of Wight was going to be Vin Diesel Bloodshot. Oh, mate, what's that? But now there's a chance that it might be Bill and Ted Face the Music, which you found hilarious. And knowing you, Sean, a film has to do something for you to find it hilarious. I think a film has to do something for you to A, find it scary, and B, hilarious. Those are 2 things that I think that you think, what are you trying to do? Horror and comedy. You're like, why the hell are you? No, it's not funny. Yeah. No, it's not scary. And so for you to say you enjoyed it, I am really, really happy for you.
Yeah, I'm really happy too, because as I say, it was it's got to do something to really please me. Yeah. But I just found it, and but to me, it was the bits where they sort of meet themselves. Those bits.
Were the best,
and the prison. Yeah, and like the prison one, I was laughing even later on, like a little bit towards the after film, and suddenly, like you get those bits where the memories come back, and then you just end up sort of laughing. It was a bit like that. Yeah.
Oh no, that's good, because I do agree with you. I do feel like for me the strongest bits of the film were the bits where they met themselves, where they were traveling through time and meeting different versions. I thought those bits were funny. Those bits I thought were really, really funny.
I did like the rock star bit where where Keanu Reeves sort of turned into Slash, didn't he?
Yes, Keanu Reeves turned into Slash, and
That's right.
And Alex Winter, some sort of weird, I don't know, status quo, Brian May kind of.
Yeah. Saxon, Van Halen, David Lee Roth type of creature, wasn't he? He was just a...
I like the ones, which were the ones when the first ones they meet that tried to peg it. They tried to run away.
Oh, yes, when they're playing like a senior centre. They're playing a senior.
Yeah, that's it. So I'm glad I went out on a high.
Oh, good stuff. And then, Sharon, you went with the film that has been called the savior of cinema. It's also been called the film that has put the death knell, the final nail in the coffin of cinema, because it didn't do what everybody else thought it was going to do, and then Disney decided to just move everything to 2021. So, you went to see... Tell us what it was.
Tenet.
Yes.
I saw Tenet. And I saw it on the last day. I saw it on the Thursday that the cinemas closed, because I did the debate going to see it, because I know it had the reviews, and a lot of people had seen it said, I didn't really get what it was all about. And I thought, do I want to sit there and be confused for 2 hours? But then I know people have said, both you gentlemen have said, it's still an enjoyable experience. I thought, I'm just going to go and do it. So the last day of cinema, on the Isle of Wight, actually, it's not the last day of cinema ever. It's not apocalyptical yet. I went to see Tenet, and because I thought I wasn't going to understand a bit of it, I actually understand it much better than I thought I would.
Oh, yes.
Because I was thinking, I was expecting not to understand anything, and it's quite linear most of the time.
You see. Now, Sean, if we could, I would give you a high five right now, because we did that. We gave Sharon enough of a warning that she knew to take her notebook with her when she was watching it, so she could follow what was going on.
Yeah, because there was a couple of bits where I thought, I could do with seeing that again, because I was watching what's happening in the foreground, and I think if I saw it again, I would watch what's happening in the background, and then that would probably tie everything up together. So I think it's probably a film that would take repeat viewings, especially at the end where you're thinking, I think I understand, but I want to go back and see that bit again.
Exactly. Yes.
But yes, I enjoyed it. I thought the protagonist really engaging. The fact that he's called the protagonist, and then he refers to himself as the protagonist, I just thought was clever without being, snarky clever. Yep. So I liked it. Yeah, I did enjoy it, and it needs a rewatch, which whenever that's going to happen. It's not going to be a cinema revisit. But no, I enjoyed it more than I thought I would, because I thought I didn't go on sufferance, but I went with a low expectation of, how much I'd get out of it, thinking, if I'm going to be horribly confused, can I actually just enjoy the experience? And I was partially confused, but I did get engaged in the characters and in what was going on. And I did enjoy the ride. So it did deliver what you gentlemen said it would.
Oh, so, good stuff. And it might still...
So I liked it.
It might still show all those chicken studios. It might still show them up. Because if it just keeps staying in cinemas, and before you know it, it could still make $1 billion. It could still, bring.
It's still got legs, and it wasn't empty by any means. Because I was thinking, the last day, I bet there'd be like 2 of us in there. It wasn't full, but it was respectable turnout in there. So people they may not be going in their huge numbers, but people were still going. Yeah. Whether it was sufficient to to deliver what they needed to, but anyway, yes, it was a worthy film to sort of say goodbye to cinema for a little while.
Oh yeah, on the Isle of Wight. So the big question is: Are you guys going to? Oh, actually, first of all, Sharon, how many stars would you give Tenet?
So I'd give it a 4.
Yep. All right. Cool. Good stuff. So, are you guys going to try and go to the what's it called? The Commodore in Ryde, which is the independent cinema.
I will see what's on, and then if there's something I want to see, I will go.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not really keen on the screens there. I don't think they're particularly good.
And it's not very. It's not the most comfortable of cinemas.
No, it's not the most comfortable, and I don't know. I don't know. If it was something that I really, really wanted to see, I might do. But we'd have to wait and see what was on. We'd probably go over together, Sharon, wouldn't we? If it was something, I mean, I don't know what it would be. I wouldn't like to see Bond there. I'd like to see that the bigger one. I mean, if it was a big one, I'd probably go to like an Odeon something on a weekend. I think like maybe over to Southampton or something like that.
Visit somewhere.
You know, if you're going to do something, if you're going to see something, you know, maybe get a cheap red jet over to Southampton and then go to IMAX or something. Yeah, an evening return, and you know, make it a big experience.
Because I was thinking in terms of Isle of Wight miles, because if you live in Cowes and this is at Ryde, I mean, it's like Isle of Wight miles. That's like going to London for the evening. And it's sometimes for you at Cowes, it's like sometimes at Cowes it's just easier to go to Southampton than it is to go to Ryde, because you have to go through Newport and the Coppins Bridge roadworks. It's just like for anybody, it's not worth it.
For anybody who has not visited the Isle of Wight, I mean, first of all, what is wrong with you? Get sorted out. Get down to the Isle of Wight. And for anybody else who's wondering what on earth she's talking about, I think it's a case with, you find out that there's such a thing as Isle of Wight miles, as you said, where I think from anywhere on the island to almost anywhere else on the island will probably take you about 45 minutes to an hour to get there. Props if you're going to travel to get from one place to another. However, that does seem to be multiplied by where an hour on the island does feel like 4 hours anywhere else. So
so people don't go to Ryde to Newport. It's just like, it's just too far. I just can't go to Ryde.
It does mean that
it's 8 miles.
It does mean that you might end up with a cheap holiday because people are like, you know what? I'm going to go on holidays this year. I live in Ryde. I'm going to go 30 miles down the road, and that's going to be my holiday or something. But we love the Isle of Wight. I mean, I keep saying one of my favorite places to live, and I do love its idiosyncrasies. Right. I don't think Netflix deserves a hearing today because I think that sounds like Sean. That sounds like you had something.
Oh, I have, yes. Well, Amazon. I think.
The Boys season 2.
I saw The Boys, and I managed to, because it finished there. The last episode was it Friday. Tosin, I'm so glad you put me onto this for the first series. I am I owe you for this one because it's brilliant. And I love this series. I think this is the greatest. And it's funny enough looking at it, and it's one of the few things that is challenging Netflix, I think, with the series. I think it's like second or third.
Or Amazon.
You got Netflix, all the streaming ones. This is like the third most popular series, and it is absolutely marvelous. I can't say enough about it. It's just like, the premise is not you particularly, they're superheroes, a group of superheroes, but they're not particularly nice superheroes. They've got a lot of problems, and I don't know. I just love this. I love this. So I think the way they think about it is like, how they say absolute power corrupts absolutely, and exactly,
and the premise of The Boys is built on, well, if somebody had all that power, they would not be a saint. They would not be a Boy Scout. They would be an absolute fill in the blank.
I think it's great.
Rhymes with
big corporations and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So it was pretty special. So I mean, if this was for me for a series, and I've watched a lot of series, was this would be totally 5-star plus.
All right,
this would be like super gold 5-star. The whole. I mean, I've been waiting because I've watched it a little bit, and we had that couple of weeks, and I really wanted to say something, but I couldn't because they were still showing the episodes.
Yes, they hadn't finished the season yet.
But now they've got to this season. It's just brilliant. I should probably might even have to watch.
I'll tell you what, Sean, I might actually watch it. I might watch it in the next week, and maybe then next week we can go over it. We can go over it properly because I think you would actually.
I might try to watch it as well then.
Or you're going to watch what from season 1?
I'll try to watch the whole lot. Yeah.
Okay. Well,
I'll set myself a challenge.
Cool.
Sharon,
I'm really excited now. I'm going to try and get the video back on.
Yeah, okay.
I'm really excited. So.
Sharon, I do have to warn you a couple of things. It's quite adult and nipples.
Has it got strong language?
Oh yes.
Very, very, very super.
No.
I mean, we're talking the strongest language. We're talking the strongest language.
I think The Boys I think The Boys was that Mark Miller? I know that there's two Scottish. Mark Miller did Kick-Ass. Who did The Boys? Is it Grant Morrison? The Boys. I I cannot remember who it is rather, but he's Scottish and he's very Scottish.
Oh, God, say no more.
Say no more. Yeah, Scottish stuff.
I'll be prepared to go. Oh.
Garth Ennis. No, it's Garth Ennis.
Yeah, I mean, I would love you to see it, Sharon, just to get. You might only watch the first couple. But
no,
anyway, it would just be
really sorry. No, I was getting them confused. Garth Ennis is not Scottish. Mark Miller is Scottish. Garth Ennis is from Northern Ireland. So yeah. So I will warn you that Sean, I'll say if I've got digital copies of The Boys, the entire comics run, because there's stuff that they don't do on the TV show, because I think it's too far even for TV.
Too much.
Yeah, the Boys. I think, Sean, if you can track it down, find The Boys and read the original comic run, because let me put it this way: as crazy as the TV show is, they tamed some stuff down.
Can you know Carl Urban, because he played Judge Dredd, didn't he?
Yeah.
Is he English or is he American?
He's New Zealand.
He's a Kiwi.
He's a Kiwi. Oh, he's New Zealand, because he sounds so like Cockney.
Yeah, I know. He's dialed up the Cockney and The Boys.
He first came to most people's attention in Lord of the Rings. He was Éomer in Lord of the Rings.
Éomer, yeah, that's right. Yeah. Oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah,
what
true.
business?
Long blonde hair. The Rohan.
That's it. Yeah. What business does an elf, a human, and a dwarf have in the Rudemark?
All right,
give me your name, Hawthorne. Yeah. All right. Good. Anyway,
on that note,
so I've had some really, really good stuff. And can I just ask one thing for Sharon? Sorry, Toes. Did you see that last episode of The Walking Dead?
I haven't seen it yet. It's on my hard drive waiting to watch. I've been waiting for a brother to be on late, which he is this week. So bring it on.
I'll hold on that one, and I'll hold on that one, so you can.
Okay, so next week we might end up having from comics to TV shows special, where we're going for comics to TV show special, where we will talk The Boys, we'll talk The Walking Dead, and let's see, what have I been watching? No, that was not a comic to begin with. I could finish watching the season 2 of Umbrella Academy. We could do that. We could talk about that kind of stuff until next week, when we do. As I said, things are going to shift. We're going to move around. We're going to figure out what it is we're doing. Until next week, where we will figure out what it is we're doing. It's a goodbye from me.
It's a goodbye from me.
And it's a goodbye from me.
We'll see you guys next week and actually write in and let us know. Let us know if there's cinemas where you are and if you might to see anything. Goodbye.